Well, let me thank all the participants for attending this workshop. Uh, as you can see, we had a really broad array of presentations. We saw DAS deployed in many different environments, from ice to cities, harbors, and undersea. Uh, I particularly want to thank the vendors for presenting what they know about DAS and what their instruments are doing. There's great increase now in range and sensitivity. Uh, the vendors are participating in so many of the research projects, and so they know all the problems that researchers are facing, and I hope it's a two-way street where new applications are being developed by the research community. Uh, I believe that DAS really has this transformative future in terms of really wide scale deployment from geophysics to engineering infrastructure. So with the idea that there is a growing group of people who are just interested in DAS, to those who are actually out in the field and doing measurements or developing techniques, all that was the real basis for thinking that some kind of way to bring this community together is what is behind the Research Coordination Network. We are sponsored by the geophysics program at NSF, but many of the programs within the Division of Earth Sciences are participating in the funding for the RCN. I've listed myself, Bob Woodward at IRIS, Scott Tyler at CTEMPs, and Casey Adderhold at IRIS. And Casey is really the glue for putting all these events together. It's what's going on behind the scenes. She's put into the chat two websites that I really hope that you have found either by Googling or by writing it down. They are that IRIS is hosting the website for the DAS RCN. They have pretty high standards for how the website is managed. And so it could be a good place for you to bookmark so that you are finding out what the RCN might be up to, or you can find out directly by signing up for the DAS Interest Group mailing list. We try not to send you too many messages. It is moderated. Members of the list can send out messages to the list, but it will get filtered first through Casey before she rebroadcasts it out to the entire mailing list. Our goals are really to bring this community together by looking at the applications of DAS. We have something of a training mission of particularly introducing early career researchers into the DAS world. And so these workshops are a way to see the more informal aspects of fielding a DAS experiment or doing the analysis that you don't always find in the written version of the research projects. We have the goal of keeping track of the new technical developments within the field, and you saw many of them in the workshop today. And the RCN has only been in existence since June of this year. And of course, it's been a year in which many of the in-person activities that we had anticipated are being done virtually. But we have a 3-year award period. And so there's a hope that this will become something gets institutionalized for keeping this community together. If we could go to the next slide. So the internal organization is that we have a steering committee that consists of about a dozen people in different areas, different institutions, largely based in the US. But I'm very happy to see the large international participation at the workshop today, and hopefully also in the working groups. You can find this list of names and their organizations and emails at the DAS-RCN website. I want to pay particular, really want to call out these working groups. We have a little over a dozen working groups, and this set of topics that the working groups represent grew somewhat organically. And they are by no means frozen. There can be new ones, there can be mergers. But let me just go through a few of these working groups and encourage those of you who are participating in the workshop to consider joining one or more. There's a lot of interest in sort of the practicalities of doing DAS experiments. And Andreas Wustefeld at Norsar in Norway is heading a working group on research and development test sites. And so this is where applications are being deployed and people are gathering data. And as we've learned, you can gather a lot of data, terabytes in a hurry. And so we have a working group that's led by Jerry Carter at IRIS on data management. In a way, IRIS has to figure out what to do with these terabytes of data. And there's a good amount of community interest in how to deal with the archiving of DAS data. Julia Correa, whom you just heard, is heading up a working group on energy technology and CO2 monitoring. Not to leave out seismology, Ray Williman at the Air Force Research Labs is leading a working group on earthquake and array seismology. And one of the special features of DAS is that it forms an array. The timing is instantaneous across all the sensors over a very large spatial distribution. You heard a talk today from Sion Yuan looking at traffic going up and down Sand Hill Road outside of the Stanford campus. And there's great interest in urban seismology, what we can do using DAS, the dark fiber that's already part of the city infrastructure for monitoring hazards and the developing near surface structure. Casey is leading a group on instrumentation. The vendors today gave us a good insight into what's available and what might be coming. Casey is also leading the plan for a field short course to take place roughly next fall, we're hoping. There will be a site selection, and we'll probably be able to have about 35 or 40 people for an in-person workshop in which everything from the fiber installation to eventually the data analysis, acquisition and analysis will be incorporated. And this will be especially geared for graduate students, postdocs, and early career researchers. Eileen Martin, who along with Nate Lindsay gave this wonderful tutorial from 2 years ago, is one of the co-leaders of a machine learning working group. And that's a very active working group. And each of these working groups holds their own meetings. And so by signing up for them, you can get on the mailing list and be aware of those working group meetings. Dante Frada, my colleague at the University of Wisconsin, is a geological engineer, and he's got a working group on engineering infrastructure. Mark Hausner at Nevada Reno is doing hydrology. Danica Roth at the School of Mines is doing geomorphology. Luke Zoot, another colleague of mine, is leading the working group on cryosphere. Lade Krosik at GFZ Potsdam is interested in volcanic and seismic hazard monitoring. Nate Lindsay has a working group on marine geophysics, Matt Becker on geomechanics, and not a topical area, but Nate is also putting together a working group of an early career DAS network. It seems to be a subject area that is very much of career interest. And so this is hands off from those of us who are not early career. So contact Nate for that working group. Next slide. So as I said, the working groups have open membership, and the level of participation will be up to you. The various working groups have their own individual styles. Some of them will have topical talks as part of their meetings, but they have some specific responsibilities as well. So I will shortly describe a series of webinars that RCN is planning on about once a month starting in January. And the working groups we're going to cycle through the working groups over the course of the year. Then it seems like this is a very rapidly growing field in terms of the literature. And so each of the working groups is tasked with compiling the publications and conference papers and data sets within their topical area. And at the end of all of this, the working groups should be preparing and distributing reports on the issues within their topical area as well as the opportunities. So by going to the DAS-RCN website, you can see who the working group leads are and ask to participate. Next slide. So one of the activities that is put on the RCN website is the calendar of DAS events. And some of these are in other societies, meetings that incorporate sessions on DAS. But we're also planning on kicking off our own RCN webinar series, and we'll send out to the dig exact time schedules and Zoom meeting information. But we're going to open in January with a virtual tour of one of the DAS test beds. And for those who are thinking of initiating a DAS experiment, visiting one in this virtual way should be of great interest. And that R&D test site working group is thinking of maybe every other month featuring a different one of their test bed sites. And those of you who do have test beds can consider adding yours to that working groups list. We wanted to keep the cryosphere during Northern Hemisphere cold weather. So we anticipate that they will do a webinar in February, probably on the topic of permafrost. Then marine geophysics in March, engineering infrastructure in April, machine learning in May, volcano monitoring in June, and data management in July. And so that's the initial half a dozen or so webinars that we have in mind. And then I've already mentioned that sometime in the fall of next year, we're hoping to hold an RCN DAS field course. Okay, and then so the final slide is just a reminder to sign up for the mailing list and check out the website. Again, thanks for participating and hope to see you as our webinar series begins next year. Thank you.
Thank you, Herb. Thank you very much. Well, that concludes. Do we have any questions for Herb? I think not. I don't see any, but I just want to say thank you so much from all of us in the RCN to our presenters, some of whom had to stay up really late, but gave great presentations all around. I think we all learned a tremendous amount. This subject continues to excite me. I want to thank all of our participants for staying through and listening and asking great questions through this. We really appreciate that. Couple of other thanks before we all let you go. The people in the background who you probably didn't see, Amy Bosian, Jim Colleton from AGU made sure that everything was working, and it was, so that was great. And then also our Zoom technician, Jeff, was in the background as well and made everything work. We will be, this is recorded, we will be putting this video together and we will be sending a note out to all of you where you can access it on the RCN website. I want to encourage you to stay participated with the RCN. The working groups are really, really great places to get involved. The leaders of the RCN right now are getting a little gray around the edges. And so we're looking for people from the working groups to take up the lead in a few years on this. So think about yourself as PIs on this. Finally, I just want to thank the organizing team for this workshop, Casey Adderall and from IRIS, Rachel Hatch from University of Nevada, Reno, Bob Woodward from IRIS, and Herb Wang is our lead and our guru for the RCN. So thanks to all of you guys. Have a safe rest of the year. Enjoy the AGU meeting, and I hope to see all of you in person at the field camp in the fall. Stay well all. Thank you.